If we move on to section 4, Reformation ideas spread throughout Europe, and on page 446 and 447, we have the Reformation after Luther. You see on 447, this is where the Protestant, refers to Christians who separated from, they protested the idea of selling indulgences, and they protested the Roman Catholic Church, they protested the Pope at the time, and they kind of started their own section of Christianity. All right, and that's where Protestant Reformation. Okay, that's where it comes in. And on page 447, we have a couple of important people in this Protestant Reformation. One is a guy by the name of John Calvin, Calvinism, all right? And he believed that, he came up with this idea that God decides before you're even born who ultimately is going to go to heaven and be saved, and who's going to go there. And then there are a few other people called Ulrich Zwingli, and he is on page 447. And he believed that the Bible contains all religious truth. So stop arguing about it. If you want to know religious truth, read the Bible, and there you have everything you need to know. And there's another group called the ANA Baptists. You may have seen Baptist Church around your hometown. That group formed at this particular time, and they did not believe in the baptism or the idea of I'm trying to think of the best way to explain it. Like Holy Communion for children, or for infants, ultimately. On page 446 and 447, talks a little bit about King Henry, and King Henry, how he wanted to get out of, he was a big supporter of the church, as your book talks about, all right? And at first, he attacked Martin Luther's idea. He did not like Martin Luther's idea, except for, if you look on page 446, it says, Henry had always been a strong supporter of the church. He had written an attack on Martin Luther's idea, but then if you read down a little bit, he eventually broke from the Catholic Church. And that was because he wanted a divorce. And according to the old school Catholic Church, divorce was not allowed. For the most part, divorce is still not seen as something that is completely acceptable in the Catholic Church. Although, times are changing, Renaissance is changing, Renaissance is cultural change, and cultural changes are happening both in the Catholic Church and the Protestant Church. And if you look on page 446, Henry VIII, King of England, was a big supporter of the Catholic Church until finally, if you see there, he wanted to ultimately divorce his wife Catherine because of the fact that he needed a male heir for the throne, and he and Catherine were not having any boys. And ultimately, if you look there, it says Henry decided it was time to marry another woman because the only surviving person to the throne was a girl. And he was like, you know what? Ultimately, I need a boy, a male heir, so I'm going to marry somebody else and maybe have children with them and ultimately get a male heir or a son. But he couldn't, according to the Catholic Church back in the day. So what happens? He wants to have a divorce. He can't have a divorce if he's part of the Catholic Church. So even though he's hammering Martin Luther early on, now all of a sudden he's like, wait a second, this doesn't work for me because the Catholic Church didn't believe in divorce. So he separates out from the Catholic Church himself and kind of went with the Protestant Reformation, more convenient avenue of trying to find a new wife so he could have an heir to the throne. If you read through page 448, it talks about the Catholic Church goes through changes. I'm not going to list all those, but you can read through some of them on your own. I would like to point out a couple of things. Remember to go over your people. I can't express to you how important it is to go through all the people. Michelangelo, Donatello, Raphael we didn't talk too much about, but Leonardo da Vinci, we talked about Erasmus, we talked about Martin Luther, there was Henry VIII, we talked about Johannes Gutenberg from Germany, and we talked about a few other people, Ulrich Zwingli, and we talked about John Calvin just a second ago. And I'm flipping through 100 miles an hour, okay? And we talked about Johann Tetzel and how he was selling indulgences and what those indulgences meant. Woo! And we talked briefly about Jan van Eyck, and he's on page 437. The bottom line is this: you need to get these people down and just make a chart and just memorize them and study them. And along with that, know a couple of interesting pieces of information. Why, who, what, when, where, why, and how. Why was there a separation in the Catholic Church? What did Martin Luther believe about going to heaven? What did he write? The 95 Theses. Why was indulgences being sold? Why and where did the Renaissance take place? Italy. Because people started to revert back to classics, humanism, Roman, Greece, beauty, art, architecture, nature, Christian humanism, all these different things. Now, here's the thing. You need to make sure you go over those people. You need to reread the sections. You need to be familiar with their major people and their accomplishments. You also need to make sure that you look at the crossword puzzles from the videos, from the films. Remember, it's discoveryeducation.com. discoveryeducation.com. And then you have to log in. All About the Renaissance is your search. After you do All About the Renaissance, those two films come up. Okay? And when you view those films, I gave you all those crossword puzzles. And go over the crossword puzzles because some of those go hand in hand with your book. All right? It goes along with the lessons. And that will help you study as well. The test is coming up. There's some matching. There is some multiple choice. There is no huge written piece as far as there's a little bit of writing, or excuse me, reading comprehension. You read a little something, you answer a question or two. And I think that's about it. There's matching, multiple choice, reading, writing a little section, just a little bit of about, in this passage, blah, 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 and then you have to answer. So it's like reading comprehension. That won't take you too long. There's a chart. There's a chart comparing some artists and some inventors and some painters and some sculptors. So that's why I said make sure you know Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, Donatello. Make sure you know all these different people and what they did. Remember the who are they, what did they do, and where were they from. That'll be important. Okay? All right. I hope this helps. I hope you guys understand that I'm trying to help you as best as possible, and ultimately I believe that you will do fine if you just make sure you read, make sure you listen in class, make sure you watch those videos, do the crossword puzzles because they'll help as well, and outside of that, I think ultimately you will find that you will be successful. And hand in the homework. And one last thing. Yes, there is a blog coming up. It'll be tomorrow or Wednesday. It'll be the next couple of days, okay? All right, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you've enjoyed our Renaissance time together. I hope you have a wonderful evening. I hope you drink your juice, say please and thank you to your parents. Hold the door for somebody who happens to be older than you. Don't spit into the wind. Take your vitamins, eat your vegetables. Remember, stay away from the fire. Otherwise, you're going to get burned. And if you start burning, stop, drop, and roll. Have a great evening. I'll see you in class. Bye-bye.